guys, welcome back to the channel. So while looking through Craigslist looking for my next find, I always look through here to see if there's anything local that I can pick up and save on shipping and pick it up at a decent price. I found a few things here in the past, so I thought I'd look and see if there's anything that caught my eye. And sure enough, as I scrolled through, this came up. And I go, that looks interesting. So looking through the listing, it appeared to be in pretty good shape, all complete, all original. 74 chestnut brown step through lady Suburban. I've been looking for a Suburban for a long time, so I thought, hey, maybe I can pick this up and save it from being scrap. What happens to these ladies frames, usually people buy them and they strip them of all their parts, including handlebar, saddle, dual stick shifters, and the wheel set's probably the most valuable, and pedals. So the frames are left for scrap, and I didn't want that to happen to this beauty. So after taking a closer look, I think I'm gonna go get it. I really like it. It's a bike I didn't know I needed. So it's everything I don't have. I don't have a chestnut brown Schwinn, I don't have a step through frame, and I don't have a Suburban, and I can get all those in one right here. Again, it's a bike that lasts another 50 years. Many generations to come enjoy it. And I think it's definitely worth getting. So the price is right too. So that's the thing. So I'm gonna see if I can go pick it up and get it set up so it looks like it did when it was brand new. Alright, so I contacted the seller and he's good to go. So I'm gonna go get it. I'm gonna go take a look at it. It's just up the street at the public storage here in the area. So I'm looking forward to taking a look. All right, so we're off to go get that bike. Pretty nice Saturday, nice and sunny. So again, the price is right, and I'm looking forward to getting that bike. Like I was saying earlier, these bikes become donor bikes to men's frames, and all the parts are taken off of them, and you'll see the frames for sale for like $35 sometimes, you know. All right, so here we go. It's just a few miles up the street. All right, so we're on our way. Should be there in just a few minutes. Pretty excited. I'm picking up this old girl, 1974 lady Suburban, chestnut brown. So again, this is the first Suburban I add to my collection. I've been looking for one for a long time, and I finally was able to find one. So this is a project that I'll probably start after I finish the tour. Oh, there it is right there. So we'll just make a quick U-turn over here, and we'll be there shortly. All right, and here we go. So we'll just pull in here real quick and wait for the gentleman to get here, and we'll go ahead and grab this bike. Just pull it in here for a second. Alrighty, well here we go. We picked it up. So the seller was a really nice guy. We hit it off. He's just like me. He's got tons of bikes, and he loves collecting bikes. Loves the old vintage bikes. So he had a nice collection as well. All right, here we go. Now we can go ahead and focus on driving. So up close, the bike, it's a little, you know, rough. It's definitely a diamond in the rough, as you can imagine. You know, it's got tons of patina on the chrome, like the stem, crankset. Decals are okay, but I'm thinking, you know, they need to be cleaned up, and that could actually end up making them not look very good once they're done. So the date on the frame is 1974 February, so it's an early year bike. And it looks like the pedals, you know, definitely got some patina action on them. We can clean that up. Saddle appears to be kind of crooked or something. You know, the springs are rusty and it's tilted to one side. I think I can probably fix that. But overall, she's complete. It's got the original fenders and everything else on it, so it should be a fun project to restore and make her look like she was new when she's done. Yeah, so the rear rim, or both rims actually, are kind of hurting, but I feel confident that the Schwinn chrome cleans up well on these rims. So, but it definitely has some patina and rust on it, but we'll get to it. All right, so we're almost home. So again, my goal with this bike is just to preserve it and keep it as it was originally presented back in 1974. All right, so let's get in here and get it out and get some shots of the bike outside on the sidewalk and see kind of what we got to do to it. All original example. It does have new tires on it, but everything else is original, including all the reflectors, the cables, brake levers, handlebar grips, side pull brakes. It's got the cool gold Schwinn badge on it. There's your serial number on it. So this is a color that was introduced in '74, chestnut brown. And it was sort of a replacement for the Sierra brown color. It's a reddish brown color, a little lighter. So this bike has, again, all the equipment on it, including the very cool rear reflector, striped painted fenders. I used to take a ride on it, and it rides pretty smooth for what it is. It used to be maintenance, obviously. Those will clean up. The paint, for the most part, is in pretty decent shape. I'm not going to touch it up. I'm just going to wax it. Sometimes waxing the paint will diminish some of those scratches and little dings here and there. Logo is in pretty good shape. And these bikes, I was noticing, I've never seen a lady's bike up close. The cabling is different. Obviously, this is a one piece that goes all the way to the handlebar, whereas the men's bike stops right here. But there's the original front derailleur and the rear derailleur. So those usually get lost within the first year of owning the bike. So these bikes had same kind of clips you saw on the crates, Stingrays. So I didn't have a Suburban, and I've never had a step-through bike, so now I got them both all in one. So we're gonna see how this cleans up. But looking forward to working on this one. This will be down the road, but glad to have it. So I decided to go ahead and start tweaking this thing out. Couldn't help but to clean up the paint a little bit. And then I noticed that the decals kind of faded a little bit at the top there. There was a lot of grime right at the top of the tube. I just cleaned up some of the components a little bit, just got the grease off of there. See these wheels still pretty bad, but the front one was really bad. So I took that one off and started playing with it and got all the rust off of it. That one was really bad, especially around the valve. So I got all that rust off of there. And then I'm gonna polish it next. Got a little bit into the hub. That was pretty grimy, and it still needs to be completed. And since I've done all that, I think I'm just gonna do this one next. One thing I noticed about this bike, I think this must have been like a factory defect bike, because I looked online and I couldn't see any other examples with a full cable. and it had 2 clamps on it, similar to what you see on like the crates, these things right here. And I noticed that they look kind of like out of place, like, well, you know, so they had one there and one over there, and here, if you see right here, this is the actual cable stop, and there should be one on the other end. And I think at the factory they just didn't weld the other one on, and by the time it went through paint and everything, they just thought, screw it, let's just put a full cable on it, put 2 clamps on it, and sell it. And that's how they did it, but it looks bad. So I'm actually going to the hardware store right now. I'm going to try to fabricate a part like that and use some JB weld to put it down here, because not a lot of pressure that goes on right there, and from what I read, that stuff holds stuff pretty good. And I'm gonna see if I can get it to match as close as possible. But there should be a bare wire right there between these 2 points, and I noticed it was weird that it had the full cable on it, and it looked bad, especially with those clips. So I'm definitely gonna change that. I will probably replace the decals as well. That one's not bad, but the one on this side really faded out at the top there. So I'm gonna go ahead and just redo these. So that bike back there, that's the project I was gonna work on next, but it's gonna have to wait at least a week. This one should be pretty quick. I'm just gonna go through the basics, take out that 1-piece crank, redo the bearings. I might have to replace that chain guard. It's kind of bent and it's got a little rust on it, but we'll see. These pedals should clean up okay. And those are the ones I saw in all the other examples too. The derailleur might be hurt in there. I think I have others that one doesn't clean up well. But other than that, it should be a nice clean example once I get done with it. Alright, so I went to the hardware store and got a corner brace. And it's right about the right length as this one right here, if you notice. It matches that length perfectly. And then I can file that down and make that hole bigger to match what this one looks like. They're the same width and everything, so that'll work out perfect. And then, like I was saying earlier, I'll just make this shape with that, make that hole bigger, and then I'll be able to, I'll try to paint it. I have a color that's pretty close to that, and then this will go over here like this, facing the opposite way, and that's where it should have been. And that'll create that correct cable stop there and a cable stop here, so that way we don't have this long cable sticking out, because the clamps, these didn't look right. Alright, that should be big enough, and then this should fit right in there. Yep, and it does. So this is where the cable goes into. Round these off, primer it, paint it. Now the original one has a cut right here, which is not really necessary. They only did that to make it easy to put the cable from underneath. I might just keep it like that to keep it stronger. Looks pretty good, but I think I'm going to file it down a little bit further. The other one seems to have a lesser space up here, so I'm going to just grind it down a little bit more, and then round out the corners. So I'll go like this first to flatten the top, and then I'll start working the corners like this. Unless you do it, I'll go ahead and start playing with that right now. It's a little better. I'm going to go ahead and take some sandpaper now and just kind of, this is a heavy gauge here. It's like a 150, and it's just enough to make it really smooth and not have any of the shavings still on it. So this is a little better. Yep, that'll work. And then what I'll do is I won't paint this part here on the top, but I will sand it down to make good contact. I'll also sand the frame about that much right there, to get it to the bare metal, and then put that epoxy on there, and it should do it. But first I'm going to primer this, and then I'm going to go ahead and put a coat of this color that I just happen to have. It's pretty close to the color, and it's just a little piece underneath, so it won't be that noticeable. Should be good. Alright, so I went ahead and rounded the corners of the part that's going to touch the frame, and I also put a groove in it. I don't know if you can see that. And what that groove will do, it'll actually create a shape for the tube. This is about the same size of the frame. See, I can put that on there and it won't roll off. And notice how it just sits on there perfectly. So I thought that might help that bond, because before it was just like flat on round, and now it's sitting there with like a little seat. So that should do it. So I'm going to go ahead and primer that sucker. I went ahead and flipped it over and got this a little bit more rounded off. It's a little bit better. So I think it's ready. I'm going to go ahead and primer it right now. So I use just a little bit of this TSP liquid cleaner. It's great for metal. Go ahead and spray it, and I'm going to wipe it down and let it dry, and then I'll go ahead and give it the coat of primer. Alright, I gave it 2 light coats, a few minutes apart. Make sure I got all the edges really well, and should be good to go. So once it dries, I can actually give it a top coat after 1 hour, it says. So we'll go ahead and do that, and then we'll let it dry. So I thought this color was going to be close enough to deal with right here. Appears to be, you know, in range, especially for a little small piece. However, when I did a test, it comes out burgundy. Look at the difference. So that won't work. Then I tried another one that's kind of a brown, and it looks kind of orangey. The two combined actually make a pretty good color, but I'm not going to do that because that would be possible to blend. So when I was at the Home Depot, I actually saw something else that was pretty close. I might go ahead and go get that. So in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and just keep working on the rest of the hardware. Go ahead and take this thing apart. Went ahead and sprayed some WD-40 on the bolts right there on front and back. That way they loosen up. So I'm going to take that off and then go ahead and overhaul the crankset. Looks like somebody took a brush to these things to get the rust off and really scratched them up pretty good. You know, so I'm going to see if I can get those scratches off with some really fine steel wool and just buffing them. This one was the same way, and I got most of it off, but I kept seeing that sideways scratching that from a brush. It's a little better. Hopefully I can get this one to look as good, because I was noticing that as I put a coat of evaporust on there, let it kind of soak for a little bit, and I'm going to wipe it down and then polish it. So we'll see how that comes out. Alright, well, this rim looks pretty good now. I was able to get a lot of the scratches off with that really like a 000 steel wool, and it definitely helped. So that'll work. So I'm going to head and take the bike apart. So we'll take that off, that derailleur. Hopefully I can save that. It looks pretty bad. This thing's pretty bent up right there. And those are the original ones. So you can take these off or take the whole thing off at once. But I'm going to go ahead and take this off because I'm really wanting to get in there. Like I said, I loosened these up earlier and put them inside and I put the DW40 right on both ends. So you can just hang on to them like there. See how bad that thing is? It's pretty. Usually this happens like when you take the front wheel off and then you set the bike down and it bends that like that. Should be able to straighten that out. It's kind of bad though. I might just put a new one on it. So I do have another one of these. But we'll see how it cleans up. And there's your chainring. So that's typical. No rust though. Looks like it's pretty clean, so that should clean up nice. Alright, get those off of there. And now we can take off the wheel. Remember, these always go counterclockwise to take off. Get some good rims so you can get good leverage on it. There you go. Should come right out. And once you get the wheel out of the way, it should come right off. There you go. Boy, this thing's super grimy right here. Look at that, just caked on grease. This chain's pretty dirty. I'm gonna go ahead and take it out because I want to be playing with the bike a little bit. I don't want that chain to be in my way. So this is a chain breaker here. Let's take it right out. All right, and there's a chain and some fresh paint thinner. It's gonna get cloudy here pretty soon. So I'm gonna let it soak there overnight, and then I'm gonna hit it with that wire brush lightly just to get all that grease off the main part of the chain. Should come out like some of those spots that you see right there. That's how it should look once it's done. So here's these things again. They should clean up. I noticed that the bottom bracket shifter cable part seems a little too long on this bike because it's kind of curving around. Take you around the bike here. See right there? So in a lot of these bikes, I've never seen one that actually goes and follows the shape of the bottom bracket. Like this one looks good. See right there? That would come off, but some of that will look like there might be some chrome loss right there. I'm still gonna clean it up, but the fact that it's all bent, I know I can straighten that out. That looks pretty bad. The closer I look at it, I don't think that's gonna come off, but we'll try it. I do have extra derailleurs, and then the saddle too. I think I have an extra one too, because that's kind of bent. I'm gonna try to straighten it out because it's actually in pretty good shape. And then of course take off the rear derailleur as well. So tomorrow I'm going to go to Sherwin-Williams, see if they have more paint options. Home Depot quite didn't have too many, so I'm going to see if I can find something closer to this so I can paint my little bracket that I created. It's not going to be that noticeable down here, but it's going to go right after the way the right about here is where it's going to go. So I'll be sanding a little spot right there so that there's bare metal, and then that epoxy should hold it up pretty good. So here's how this thing looks now with the Alright, so I'm going to head out to Sherwin-Williams, see if they can match this paint or have something close already. So I'm going to take the front fender with me. So I'll take it off from right here. That should come right out. Don't use that washer. Nothing really close, but this one's not bad. It's kind of a satin finish. And I also got this one here that's got more of a bronzy look to it. So maybe the combination of those two might do it. And I got a clear coat just in case to give that some gloss. I got them because every time I see paints, I don't really match their caps exactly. So this color actually might be closer. But those two right there, I think might make it. So that's got kind of that same kind of quality as that color. And that one's got the reddish tone. So maybe between the two, mixing it up in a little container and just brush it on might be good for that. We had to take out the crank. I like to put a little bit of WD-40 right there. Keep in mind that this can serve as a way to holding it right there, your kickstand. And again, this is going to crank clockwise to loosen. There we go. So once you get it off, shouldn't be too hard to take out. And then you have your cone right there. There's a key washer that fits right into a slot. That should come out too. And then that's your cone right there, which is up against your bearings.
And then you can use this here. And this shouldn't be too tight. This is normally hand tightened and tweaked. There we go. So that comes right out. Once you get loose enough, you can actually just put this in here like this, and then it makes it quicker to turn. And then when you get to the end, go ahead and just thread it out of there, and that'll come out. And then make sure you take out your bearings as well. So it looks like it's pretty dry right there. Check that out. Nothing on there, nothing on there. Equals gritty. There's another bearing on this side that needs to come out too before you can spin it out of there. So there you go. All right. And notice how the bearings go. Just like that. All right, so in most cases, these are actually in pretty good shape. And you can just take a little bit of paint thinner just to kind of clean them a little bit and see how they look. Check it out. So I polished it and it came out perfect. Other side, same way, came out perfect. And that's what I was telling you about that cable. See how it looks? It should not have that kink to it. So when I cut that, it's going to just, come right over the top of this. Like it won't have that little hump there. It's going to just come like this straight across. All right, so next I'm just going to cut these cables off, take them out so I can remove all the derailleurs and brakes and get rid of this long cable. It's not going to be there when I get done. It's going to be one short cable to that stop, and then bare inner wire to the end of that, another cable stop, and then just like the other bikes. It'll look much better. So I'm going to do that off camera because my battery is completely dying. And again, taking cables off is just pretty basic. So I'm going to just cut them, remove them, and I'll be back. Alright, well, all the cables are off, derailleurs are off, fenders are off. So my battery charged enough where I could actually unplug it and walk around a little bit. So it was kind of tied to the wall outlet. So I'm going to take this off next, as well as the headset, and take the fork off. But it looks like these dual stick shifters have some pitting on them, so I'll try to clean them off and see how they do. Again, this is the side that got the most fade on the decal. There was a lot of junk up here, and I used a little bit of soap and water, and you can see some of it still right there. And they got off most of the stuff up there, but looks like the decal does not like soapy water, because that faded pretty good. I was surprised because I'd done that before and didn't affect the decal that much. But that's okay though. I'm gonna remove it and replace it so it looks really nice. I got the whole set, including the ones here. But I think those I might just leave alone because those look pretty good. I just clean whatever crap is on there right there. But I'll leave those there. And I'll just replace that one. And I'll probably remove that Scarlet sticker, because here in South Florida, Scarlet's is a gentleman's club. And it's not really a cool decal anyway. I only leave decals that have the Schwinn dealer logo on them. So if it's just a bike shop, I take it off. I just take a heat gun to that and then it peels right off. So these here are just counterclockwise. And I had listened to this originally when I took the bike home, so we could actually put it in the trunk, because these upright handlebars take up a little more room than the drop down. And there it is. So got a little rust in it, but we put it right back in there. So that's how that wedge works. As you can see, when you pull it up, it higher it goes, the tighter it gets against that steerer tube. And then when you loosen it, you got to pop it down for it to release. So that should do it. Next is the, oh man, this thing. When I rode it, I couldn't tell that it was this bad when you got that handlebar helping you turn it, but when you turn this by hand, you can see how it's, see it? I mean, it is rough. And that right there really feels more like it's too tight, because that right there, those bearings are grinding at every turn. So let's get into that. All right, and luckily this wasn't that tight because normally I take this off and I still have the wheel on it. So I can have some leverage to hang on to the fork. But I was able just to hold the fork and then take this off. So that comes right out. A little bit of rust right there. So first thing that comes out is it's got like a key washer in there. So these are easier to deal with now that you have them off of there. Take them completely apart, see if we can save them. And then you have your cone right here. And make sure you hang on to the fork so it doesn't drop. And this has the classic cage bearings that Schwinn used on both sides. And no grease at all. See, and that's what I was feeling. Yeah, these bearings are dry as can be. So we'll make sure the races aren't damaged. I'm sure they're going to be okay. I'm going to polish them out and clean them. And I think I might just use loose bearings in there. These things were really done to help manufacturing, to make them pop them in and get them out. So we'll go ahead and get the rust off of here, clean all this, and make this thing turn nice. So the bottom one came out real easy, so I'm going to go ahead and take off the top one too. A little rusty there, so I'll let them sit in some upper rust, make sure those races are intact. I usually do not take those off, but if you do, here's a tool from Part Tool that works really well. And you can use it to take the bottom races as well on the bottom bracket. So they can clean these up and see how they do. So actually we just put it on there for a little bit and let the decal, I think he's kind of turn the putty, and then it should be able to be peeled off. And the thing is to get the sticker all at once without having to go back and take little pieces off. Perfect. And there it is, intact. So I'll save it. All right, well, the frame's completely stripped. Nothing on it except the kickstand. I will put a little bit of rust dissolver on there, see if I can get some of that off of there, and then see if I can wipe that cleaner. Went ahead and removed the head badge. The original one had some weird finish issues. I tried to clean it and made it worse. But I did find the one just like it. I ordered it, so it should be coming soon. So the next thing is to polish the frame. I already kind of had done that, but I'm gonna do it even more once I remove those decals and I can get to the top tube all the way. That's how those got faded, because I was trying to clean the top of it because it was really messy up here. And I was able to get that off, but by doing that, I was able to, you know, kind of fade the decals. Good thing is, those things are available for like $15. My whole kit actually was, I think, $35 because it includes those, that one, and then the ones on the fork, which I probably won't use, but I'll have just in case. So this thing cleaned up well. Races look good. Those bearing cups. And I'll be polishing that once I remove the saddle. So, and then here's a big mess that I'm going to straighten out here shortly. These are all the parts. Pull them off, and I'm going to get them organized so that way they're all in its place, and I'll come back and show you how everything looks after I clean this. Right now everything looks pretty dirty.